suspicion beyond the shadow of a doubt. And back in the day, yeah, that kind of worked, but cheaters are smarter now, and the vast majority of them configure their cheats in a way that prevents them from shooting spies that they shouldn't be able to see for the exact reason to avoid being suspicious. Cheaters these days aren't stupid, and will often do everything they can to avoid being 100% blatant. A lot of them still cheat very blatantly, but not to the point where an average tf2 player will be on the shadow of a doubt think, this guy's definitely cheating, you know? Anyway, wall hacks are used in some capacity by just about every cheater. Some will toggle them off to seem more legit, and because they might think, I don't need aimbot and wall hacks to stomp the enemy, or vice versa. But generally, wall hacks are utilized on every single class, much like the next two cheats we're gonna go over. Crit hacks exist. If you didn't know that, great, now you do. Now there's some weird nuance to how this type of cheat works by manipulating tf2's code or whatever, but that's the stuff you only really need to know if you're someone that's using this cheat. But for someone trying to spot a cheater, this is all you really need to know. So random crits on melee weapons work differently than random crits on secondary and primary weapons. Melee weapons crit more often because they have a 15 to 60% chance to crit depending on how much damage you've done in the last 20 seconds, while other weapons have a 2 to 12% chance depending on the same variable. With crit hacks, you can force 100% guaranteed crits on melee weapons at all times, given it's a weapon that can get them, and you can significantly increase the rate on other weapons. Not to 100%, but to a point where you start to get into the territory of Minecraft speedrunner odds. But how do you spot these in-game? Well, it depends. If it's one of these classes, you'll notice that they get random crits on their primary weapons very, very often, which you might see by getting killed by them yourself over and over again, watching multiple of your teammates get deleted by them frequently, or if you're already onto them, you might want to start just glancing at the kill feed for their name to start subconsciously comparing the amount of critical kills they get to the amount of non-crit kills they get. But also, make sure it's not just a history. If someone is getting a suspiciously high amount of random crits across an extended period of time, that's enough to look into it. And it's very important that it is across an extended period of time. If someone just gets 2 to 3 Crockets in a row, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I mean, there's literally an achievement for that 1/5 of anyone who's ever played TF2 has. I apologize for the quality of this clip, but it shows off some blatant crit cheats in action. This cheating soldier walks straight into our courtyard and deletes one of my teammates before getting 2 crits in a row. Then he dies like an idiot. Not even 60 seconds later, he comes right back and fires off 2 more random crits in quick succession, while also hitting some pretty impressive shots, thanks to another cheat we'll get to here in a second. Now these 3 classes are kind of a different story. When it comes to cheating medics, crit hacks on their melee weapon is one of the few things you can even notice, and medics are notorious for getting a lot of melee crits anyway. So here's what I'll say. If you, for whatever reason, believe the enemy medic is cheating, just off a gut feeling, or if his points are suspiciously high, try to engage him in melee combat.
I'm moving this.
Every single time, he's probably crit hacking. In fact, you should do the same for snipers. A cheating sniper will be more obvious anyway, but if you really need something to confirm it for you, it might just be this. So this would be a good time to tell you, smart cheaters will not melee crit you if they don't have to. If they're confident enough in coming up behind you or something, or if you're low enough health to die without being crit, they will intentionally avoid forcing a melee crit to avoid suspicion. So just keep that in mind. If you think someone's cheating, but they get a non-crit melee kill, they are not in the clear just yet. Then you've got Spy, who you don't really have to worry about too much when it comes to crit hacks, since Spy's melee cannot random crit. And a lot of cheating Spies, not all of them, but a lot of them will use the Ambassador, which also cannot random crit. But if he's using the Revolver or Latranger, the same goes for him as with these guys. Here's a clip of a player demonstrating all 3 of these cheats at once, twice in a row. By this point, I knew there was a cheater in the match, and I knew that they were somewhere around this area, so I was really just looking to get footage exactly like this for the video as I walk over here. Lo and behold, Choco pops out from around the corner and insta-kills me with a crit while displaying inhuman reaction time. It could be argued that he knew I was there because I used a voice command just moments earlier, but if you actually believe that this guy is legit after his next clip, you are the reason I'm making this video. Same guy, like a minute later, shows up out of nowhere and double tapped me within seconds. And oh look, he got a crit again. How odd. I mean, look at this. He somehow isn't even visible when he shoots me for the second time here. That's not human skill, and this guy is not legit. Alright, next cheat. So you've heard of b-hopping before, right? You probably have. And if you haven't, I'm not gonna explain it to you. You can b-hop in tf2, it's just difficult. And it's very, very difficult to do consistently and to chain them together. However, you can make it easier by binding jump to your mouse wheel. And if you're really desperate, you can make it effortless if you set up some sort of script and or download cheats. If someone in your match is b-hopping a lot, doing it very well and very consistently, they could be cheating. But they could also just be pretty good and pretty lucky. Either way, you probably want to look into it. I sadly don't have any footage of this, but recently, me and my friends were playing a match of Badwater. The enemy pyro hit a sus reflect, which caused me to suspect them. Eventually, they got auto-balanced to our team, so I decided to spectate them. The strange part is that I was 100% confident that they were cheating because of how they were b-hopping around. But they also played like shit. They would b-hop into a group of enemies, throw down the gas passer, and then immediately die. If they hadn't hit that initial reflect on me, I never would have caught them because of how shit they played. So Silent Aim is a cheat that used to work for hit scan weapons, but was patched a while ago to now only work for projectile weapons. Cheaters that have Silent Aim will typically be using any of Soldier's primaries, most demo man weapons, flare guns, syringe guns, the crossbow, the huntsman, etc. Once again, this one can be tough to spot depending on how blatant they are with it. If you see a soldier or demo man or anything like that shoot at you when they are not aiming at you, that's Silent Aim. It's a cheat that lets cheaters shoot projectiles in a direction they're not aiming, without their aim actually snapping at all like it would if they were using hit scan. Here's a clip. This is a cheating demo man. The way he kills me here is very subtle, but if you look closely, he's not aiming at me. He was close, but his grenade should have went more in this direction rather than straight at my balls. If you think maybe this is just tf2 being weird and I'm salty over this kill for no reason, this guy and at least one other person on his team went full blatant cheater as sniper later in the round. Anyone I feature in this video that I refer to as a cheater or that I imply is a cheater, I am 1,000,000,000% sure that they cheat, even if I don't show the full context. So just trust me. If their username is redacted, it's because I'm less than 1,000,000,000% sure they're a cheater. Their name is inappropriate, or because I'm 1,000,000,000,000% sure that they cheat for attention and would love to be featured in my video. But just in case, if you're in this video and I use you as a cheater example, but you aren't a cheater, reach out to me and we'll try to get it sorted out. Beyond that, this cheat can be nearly impossible to detect unless you're spectating the cheater, or if the cheater tries to shoot at your teammate while very obviously aiming at them, but for whatever reason, their software decides to shoot at you instead. Just like in this low-quality clip from before with Josh the direct hit soldier. Instead of focusing on how many crits he gets, let's take a look at where he's aiming and what he hits. Now we can't actually see him when he gets this kill on the scout, but the scout is moving quickly and jumping around like scouts do, so it's a considerably impressive shot. Then when he moves in, my pyro buddy here goes after him. At this point, Josh and his spy friend are in danger of being burnt to a crisp. This pyro is actually threatening Josh's life. So what should Josh do? Shoot the pyro to prevent himself from dying. And that's what he tries to do, but Joshy's shitty Silent Aim that he wasted his neglectful mother's money on sees me and thinks, ooh, a spy, let's crit him. So he fires off a shot in a direction that he's not aiming at, and it just barely misses me. But then his Silent Aim goes, oh wait, never mind, and deletes the pyro. I don't even think Josh saw me in this clip, despite having fired at me and looking directly at me right here. Once again, he comes back and works his Lamau box magic on our engineer and pyro, but then when he goes to shoot at the sentry behind me, his Silent Aim sees that the pyro is about to come back down and deviates just enough to turn the pyro to dust. Then he dies like an idiot again, because he really sucks at this game. So those are more or less all the general cheats that I'm aware of. So let's move on to the ones that are more niche or class specific. The Force of Nature has an attack interval of 0.3125 seconds. This means that a human player has to wait 0.3125 seconds after firing the first shot before being able to fire the second. There is a cheat called Double Tap that is for whatever reason able to completely bypass this attack interval, firing both shots at once. Inexperienced players that don't know how the weapon works or the specific damage numbers may turn a blind eye to this when being one-shot by a weapon that can't can't one-shot them, as they think it's just a feature of the game. Do you guys like my Shunick impression? If you get one-shot by the force of nature when you have more than 115 health and there weren't any vulnerabilities or crits in play or anything, the player that killed you is 100% without a doubt, unless you were mistaken in what you saw, cheating. There isn't really a class-specific cheat to Soldier, but it should be noted that they like to use the direct hit, as the increased rocket speed pairs well with their silent aim. I would argue that Pyro is actually the least commonly played class by cheaters, and I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just more difficult for me to spot. Pyros will use aimbot, and many of them have an auto reflect, which is also quite difficult to spot unless they reflect a rocket that they literally had no way of anticipating, or a projectile that's rather tough to deflect. Despite what many Pyro enthusiasts will have you believe, doing this isn't that difficult or impressive. So just because someone does this multiple times per game doesn't really mean anything, unfortunately, as it can be pulled off with a bit of prediction, luck, and also this. Most demo men can just use silent aim and get away with it, as it's very tricky to spot on a demo man unless you're spectating him, so you may have to look out for impossible game sense or crit hacks. But some demos have an automatic sticky detonation cheat that will automatically detonate stickies when someone is within their blast radius. Sometimes people get lucky, but if they do it even twice, that's sus! Cheating heavies will just use aimbot, crit hacks, and wall hacks, and often have a pocket medic. Whether that pocket medic is an accomplice or just an innocent bystander caught up in a crime that they have no idea they're helping commit is for you to figure out later on. Unrelated, but I feel like this would be a good time to bring up that 95% of cheaters always have a kill streak weapon equipped. Obviously, this doesn't mean that any player with a kill streak is automatically suspect, but it's something to look out for if you're onto someone for a separate reason. Cheating engineers will function pretty similarly to cheating scouts, running around and shooting people with aimbot, crit hacking, wall hacking, the usual. They like to use the Widowmaker though, because they can't miss, and the Widowmaker is essentially absent to downside if you don't miss with it. Cheating medics are 99.9% of the time just pocketing their boyfriend who's also a cheater. This isn't to say without their pocket a cheating medic is nothing, as they still have silent aim, crit hacks, and wall hacks to rely on, which would serve anyone very, very well. It should be noted that snipers like to utilize different types of aimbot that can be extra difficult to spot in-game. Triggerbot and slow aim are the two that I'm familiar with thanks to this video by Maxbox, and as far as I'm concerned, there's no reliable way to spot someone using these types of aimbots unless you're spectating them. So I might talk about it more there when we get to that section of the video. The main cheats that spies will use involve ping manipulation, interping, paired with some sort of cheat that will instantly backstab someone when possible, similar to Triggerbot that snipers will use, but for backstabs. CL interp used to be something that anyone could do, and I could be wrong here, but I'm now fairly certain that you have to be cheating in some way to do it, but if you ask me, you should be kicked for doing it either way. There's also another cheat that's not really used by spies, but against them, an anti-backstab cheat, showcased in this old video by Mr. Paladin. I've barely experienced it myself and know very little about it, I just know that it exists and would like to share that knowledge with you in case you didn't already know. So if you're playing against a cheater, it should be reasonably easy to notice depending on what class they're playing. But if you're on the cheater's team, the hard part is taking notice while the easy part is confirming your suspicions. So I'm going to quickly go down a list of characteristics or just things that you can take notice of when it comes to people on your team that when I see, I think, that's enough for me to look into this person, you know? Like, I don't see these things and think, cheater for sure. Just, this doesn't really prove anything at all, but it's a reason to take a closer look. Absurdly high score compared to the rest of the players in the server. Absurdly high crit rate, racist, homophobic, transphobic, sexist, or just generally toxic weapon names, as well as racist, homophobic, transphobic, sexist, or just generally toxic behavior in chat. Members of the enemy team calling them out or expressing suspicion, consistently high kill streaks, and mention of anything related to these terms. HVH stands for Hacker versus Hacker, Nitro Region, Nullcore, and Lamaubox are the name of cheating softwares. Now if you're following the P in penis by paying attention, you can notice these things, and if you skipped the bot section, that probably sounded really, really strange out of context. The point is, keep an eye on your teammates. Be observant. Being observant is really important here, okay? Now, once you observe this cheater-like behavior, you have a job to do it. If you're as passionate about this as I am, I need you to do this for me. If you play tf2 on a regular basis, boot it up right now and type this into the console. Bind mwheel up extend freeze. What this will do is make it so that every time you scroll your mouse up, you'll run this command through the console. And what this command does is extend your respawn time. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, if you play on community servers, or if you've been around long enough, you'll know that there's actually a secret third team. Not that one. A secret third team hidden within the team selection screen. Team Spectator. Where you just watch. I know, it sounds kind of boring, but the ability to spectate is invaluable when it comes to sniffing out cheaters, because pointing out an aimbot is a lot easier when you're peering through the eyes of the aimbotter. But unfortunately, this spectator team got removed from casual mode at some point, and teams are just auto-assigned now. But this command semi-solves that issue, allowing you to spectate anyone on your team as long as you want, as long as you continue to scroll up. And this is where we transition into step 2, evidence gathering. Now, of course, if you're on their team, you're gonna want to try to spectate them. But before you do that, check their profile. Press Shift-Tab and click on View Players. Search for them by name. If you can't find them, go to the Recent Games tab and search for them there, since they may be appearing offline. If you still can't find them, check their in-game profile picture. If you do find them and see that their name on their profile is different from their name in-game, that's a telltale sign of a cheater. Listen, I don't know how they do it, but there's a way to make your in-game name different from your profile name. There might be a way to do it without using malicious cheats in tf2, but I've just never seen someone that isn't a cheater do this. So that would be your first piece of evidence if you run into that. And it's a pretty strong piece of evidence, right? Because when scouring someone's profile that you suspect may be cheating, there's weak evidence and there's strong evidence. And you can use this evidence to further or confirm your own suspicions, as well as present it to others in the match when you go to make the call out. The next thing you might run into is a private profile. Now, a private profile doesn't really mean anything, but when I suspect someone of cheating, and I see that they have a private profile, I consider that evidence, and I will likely bring that up later on when accusing them. It is something that they could reasonably explain, but that's why you should always gather more evidence than just private profile equals cheater. And if you literally can't, then they're probably not cheating to begin with. But if their profile isn't private, here's what you can look for that may indicate cheating. Relatively weak evidence would include a comment calling them out, offensive, insensitive, not safe for work, or just out-of-pocket content as their name, profile picture, or just anywhere on their profile. 100% achievement progress on tf2, a new account. This may indicate that they're playing on an alt, which cheaters do. And this last one's gonna sound like a joke, but I'm dead fucking serious when I say this. CSGO in their recent activity. I'm not sure whether or not I need to explain myself on that one, as well as a number of other things that require more than a passing glance to pick up on and aren't really worth mentioning in the first place. Strong evidence would include multiple comments calling them out. Anything on their profile that references cheating or hacking, even if it's just a line in their bio that says, I know cheat! A VAC ban or a game ban, and there is a difference. To my understanding, a game ban is given to a player by the developers of a game when that player engages in any sussy activity. It could be using an exploit in Unturned, harassing streamers in Dead by Daylight, cheating in Undertale, I don't know, maybe you pissed off Toby Fox. Just for any Steam game, really. Whereas a VAC ban is more or less confined to Valve games. I think you can still get a game ban from CSGO depending on the circumstances, but if you get caught cheating by Gabe Newell himself in Left 4 Dead 2, TF2, Dota 2, Day of Defeat probably, you get a nice shiny VAC badge on your profile. And if you get banned for cheating in CSGO, you can still play TF2 for some reason. Listen, if you have a game ban, you can explain it away reasonably enough. But I'm still gonna be on your case, alright pal? A VAC ban, on the other hand, I don't care if it was 5 days ago or 6,000 days ago. I am kicking you from the game out of principle. If you receive a VAC ban on your account, you should never be allowed to play any Valve game ever again. Because otherwise, what's the point of the VAC system anyway? And after all, once a cheater, always a cheater.
Once a cheater, always a cheater. That's what you sound like right now. That's what you sound like right now.
Okay, that's not necessarily true, but I'm gonna say it if I happen to develop a suspicion of you and happen to end up searching your profile and you happen to have a game ban or a VAC ban. Does that make sense? Once a cheater, always a cheater is true for most cheaters, but when it's not, it's at least once a cheater, never to be fully trusted again. I suggest you all follow that principle as well, but I don't know, it's your life, you do you, I guess. So if it's a vac ban, that's enough evidence to make the call out, and we'll get into the intricacies and nuances of that when covering step 4, but if it's anything other than a vac ban, you're going to want at least one gameplay observation or interaction with them that's indicative of cheating before you move forward. Perhaps more than one depending on how strong or weak the evidence you gather from their profile is. So now you're going to want to spectate them using the extend freeze bind you set earlier. Now you would think that now I'm going to teach you how to spot cheats from a first person perspective. And yeah, I mean, I will. Aimbot looks like this, with the twitchy, quirked-up aim snapping to targets. Slow aim and trigger bot is tougher and less reliable to spot. Wall hackers will be looking in odd directions, pre-aiming and watching players through walls. Silent aim is much easier to spot from a first-person perspective, and it should become quickly apparent whether or not the person you are spectating is using crit hacks. Whatever, I think you get the idea. I probably don't even need to be telling you this. Here's the really important info. The vast majority of cheaters know when they are being spectated. When you do this spectating trick with extend freeze and get your respawn time up to like 60 or 100 or even 200 seconds, your teammates can see that. Right up here. But who the fuck is ever gonna look up here and take notice of that? Now very rarely, you might get some innocent bystander who sees it and thinks, what the fuck? This guy isn't gonna respawn for another 10 years. How is he supposed to contribute to the team? Let's get him out of here. And you might get kicked. But I'm gonna tell you how things usually go from my experience. If I start spectating someone because I think they might be cheating based on some crazy moment they pulled off or their score, or any of these things that I listed earlier, but check their profile and find weak evidence or no evidence to support the claim that they're cheating, one of two things happen. They either expose themselves as a cheater to me relatively quickly, or I stop spectating them after watching them do non-cheater things, because I just don't have any solid reason to keep telling myself that they're cheating while being unable to prove to myself that they're cheating. But if I start spectating someone because I think they're cheating and check their profile to see evidence that really strengthens my belief that they're cheating to the point where I'm almost 100% confident, I will just not stop spectating them, even if they go on to display non-cheater gameplay for over 10 minutes, 20 minutes even. If my belief is strong enough, I will keep watching them. Now sometimes this results in me eventually going, okay, maybe I'm just an insane person and this dude isn't cheating and I just wasted half an hour of my life for no reason. But let me tell you something, and this is where we enter step 3. Actual cheaters cannot fucking stand it when you spectate them for an extended period of time. Now, I don't know exactly how it works for them, but I imagine their cheating software is the thing that tells them like, hey, this guy's spectating you right now, which makes them think, okay, I better pretend to be legit for a moment until this spectator respawns. But then eventually they realize, so clearly this guy is onto me and wants to spectate me in hopes of confirming his suspicions that I'm a cheater. I just gotta keep playing legit for a while longer and eventually he'll give up. And when I don't, they say to themselves, God damn it, man, what the fuck? This guy has been spectating me all match. I keep dying because I'm shit at this game without my instant win buttons, and they get really fucking annoyed. Now here's what a true dumbass does in this situation, very eloquently demonstrated by Mr. Pizza Hut Dude 2001. This guy wasn't trying to be subtle or hide his cheats at all. He was very blatant the whole time. I was just holding off on calling him out and kicking him because I wanted to get some footage of a cheating demo man. But eventually he says in chat, can this ninja stop spectating me? To which I respond in voice chat, who's spectating you? You know, sort of trying to play dumb to get him to be more specific. And then he says, oh, they stopped. Because I did stop, because he died. But then he uses a melee aimbot on a spy. How fucking shit at this game do you have to be to need an aimbot for your melee swings? Holy fuck. So then I say, but you said someone was spectating you. How do you know when someone is spectating you? You can't see that. He's starting to realize that maybe he fucked up and says, no, it's because I think they are spectating. Because they keep dying, but yeah, makes zero sense. So I say, but what makes you think someone was spectating you? What's so special about you that would make someone want to spectate you? Because someone accused me in chat, and they want to check it out. Accused you of what? Still playing dumb. I don't know, they said I was cheating. Do you think it's because you're just very blatantly cheating? Could that be it? Can we kick this guy? He's cheating really blatantly. Everyone F1, please. That was satisfying. Yeah, I know it was just a friendly 2-fort server, so I'm not exactly saving the world or anything with that one, but it's always a delight to watch some dipshit cheater completely helpless as they get kicked from the match. There'll be a lot more of that later on. But first, let's take a look at what a slightly less idiotic cheater does. Now first off, this is my pal Dawes. He streams TF2 as well as other games on Twitch. One day, Dawes decided to stream some TF2 and I decided to join him. Not too long into the stream, we join a game of Upward in which I immediately take notice
Yo, a little help here?
a name of a player
Yo, a
that
little
I
help
think I
here?
might have recognized to be the name of someone who might be a cheater. Yeah, not the most solid grounds for an accusation, nor a good reason for me to even suspect this person at all. I decided to go check their profile just in case, but I'm unable to find it. It's not showing up in this little recent players menu. And I know that there's a different way to check profiles, but I don't bother with it for a number of reasons, don't ask me. But the fact that it wasn't showing up immediately made me like 5 times more suspicious of this guy. But I chose to just play normally without really checking him out. I was keeping an eye on his score though, and nearly halfway through the game, I thought, he is actually doing pretty well. Maybe I should spectate him. So I do that. And teach Dawes how to do it as well.
They said to spam it. I didn't realize it.
Dawes just isn't going to respawn.
And as we're watching him, we slowly became more and more confident that he was cheating. But it was rather subtle. We couldn't really point to a specific moment that proves he cheats beyond a shadow of a doubt. But that's what we were waiting for. However, before we could see any of that from him, this happened.
Why do you have 2 people on our team that are just like dead and spawn right now? What the fuck's going on?
Yeah. These people are just like not respawning. And they stay at the same depth like the entire game.
What do you say to this?
Great question, Dawes. Let me break down what just occurred. We're gonna call this blurred out name guy Phil from now on. So Phil is a cheater, and he knows that Dawes and I are spectating him. So he calls us out to make it known to the server that we're essentially dead weight to the team because we haven't spawned in for the last 10 minutes or so. Now this fella, Dirk, who I'm not blurring the name of, hopefully so Phil gets jealous that his shitty friend no one cares about got in the YouTube video while he himself didn't. Maybe they fight over it and I can ruin a cheater friendship. Anyway, this guy Dirk immediately backs Phil up with a... which causes me to realize that they are friends, and therefore that Dirk is also very likely a cheater considering his place on the scoreboard. And as much as I'd like to go check his profile to see what I can find, I am now forced to respond to this or I'm probably gonna get kicked. At this point, I know that Phil is a cheater, and he knows that I know he's a cheater, and I know that he knows that I know he's a cheater, but whether or not he knows that I know that he knows that I know he's a cheater is up for debate, you following? The cat's out of the bag between the two of us. Now we're sort of just racing to convince the rest of the server to kick the other party. Dawes and me versus Phil and Dirk. I do panic a little bit when I find out that there's more than one scumbag we're gonna have to deal with, so I respond like this. Sorry, I'm here, what's up? Sorry, I was just looking for your profile.
Did you like hear me across your interception on your monitor?
Yeah, I was just looking for your profile, and I can't find it anywhere. But I did notice that there's someone...
Sorry, I can't hear you very well.
Yeah, I just can't find your profile anywhere. I don't know what's up with that.
Here, I'll put my profile link in chat for you.
Great. Now, I'm not exactly sure what he's thinking here, but I'm gonna use this as an example as to why you don't lead with, you're cheating, we need to kick you, and instead you start with the reason you suspect someone of cheating and see what happens. And don't just say, I think you may be cheating because you look through walls a lot. Say something like, I noticed that you seem like you're staring through walls a lot. What's up with that? It's a non-accusatory accusation. We'll come back to that later, but because I just told this guy I was having trouble finding his profile, which is what made me originally suspect him, he responds in what seems to be a kind, understanding way. Perhaps he didn't want to come off as defensive and combative in front of the other players in the server. Maybe he actually thought I was a fellow cheater and wanted to friend him. Doesn't really matter what's going through his head here. What matters is that he sent his profile. And he has a vac ban. Thanks for sending it. He has a vac ban.
Alright.
He does.
I
Oh,
think I-
shit.
I think I'm
You should
dull.
point it out.
It's at this point I decide to check Dirk's profile and see that he also has a vac ban, but the round ends before we get the chance to do anything about it. There was another round after that where something went down, But once again, you're gonna have to wait till step 4 before you get to see that. So that's a good way of testing them if you're on their team. Just spectate them and see if they eventually lose their fucking mind and snap. This doesn't always work out though. This player with a vulgar name was hitting a lot of headshots. So I go to spectate them, and suddenly they're not hitting a lot of headshots anymore. Peculiar. Eventually, I get auto-balanced, and they start hitting a bunch of headshots again. I was fairly certain that this person was cheating because of that, but I couldn't really do anything about it at this point, which is fine. Sometimes you take L's. How do you test a suspected cheater that you're playing against? There's a way, it's just much less reliable, and you can never really expect one specific result. There is this very strange thing that cheaters do to communicate with each other. When two cheaters find themselves in a match together, and they know that each other are cheating, each time one of them kills the other, they'll type a number in chat. That number being how many times they've killed the other cheater. Now, if this video does really well and gets viewed by a sizable portion of the community like I hope it does, this method is going to become even less reliable, because more legit players are going to know about this cheater kill counter thing. But you know, maybe this video flops and gets no views, which would be really disappointing, man. I worked hard on this. But in that case, if you do suspect someone of cheating and you want to test them, try to kill them, and then when you do, type 1 in chat. The way they react to this could be very telling, but it could also mean literally nothing. Maybe they start to focus you more and respond with a 1 of their own when they kill you. That could be a pretty good reason to confirm your suspicions, but I don't know. Maybe they'll just say nothing and you learn nothing. Maybe they act confused. Maybe they really are confused. Don't expect this to give you anything to work with. Just know that maybe it might. And now, finally, we may move on to step 4, making the call out. Sometimes this step is very simple and straightforward. The enemy team's top player in this clip, Yuffie, has a VAC ban, as well as multiple game bans. The round is coming to an end, so I say in chat, Yuffie's got a quirky little VAC ban. And that's really as much as we can do right here. Their team is too busy rolling us to pay attention to chat, so the culprit never actually got kicked, but we made the call out. Here's another example of the same thing, calling out a cheater on the enemy team. I point out that he has a VAC ban, get no acknowledgement. Starting to get a little frustrated, so I reiterate in all caps. NerdSauce backs me up, and finally we get a response. I don't know if he is. Please, for the love of God, do not be like this guy. It's not a question of whether or not he is. He has a VAC ban and he's top scoring. You can check the profile yourself to verify this. Then the cheater throws his hat into the ring in an attempt to defend himself. How am I playing then? That's a fucking brilliant question, man. I have no clue why Valve allows players that have been VAC banned for cheating to just continue playing whenever they want. It's fucking stupid. It's a worthless anti-cheat, but that's what the vote kick system is for. Anyway, that was really the end of it. We couldn't convince anyone on blue team to take us seriously, so this scumbag continued to cheat uncontested. Let's take a look at one that went kind of well. Here I am spectating this guy with a strange European name that I don't know how to pronounce, but he was actually not cheating. I was only spectating him because